Hello, everyone. Hello, precious guest. Our precious guest today is Lama Sarakhni, who is, I would say, famous teacher, Dharma teacher, who is teaching for many years. I don't know for how long, 20 years or something. It's, I love her teaching. And when I have some questions, sometimes my Lama says, go to Saroni, ask her. And every time I come to Saroni with my questions, she's answering in a perfect way. And I use her advices, and it's very helpful for me. So Lama Sarakhni has finished 3-year retreat with Venerable Sumati together. And she used to be a Diamond Mountain Retreat Center director, co-director. Just correct me if I'm mistaken. So I don't know for how long she's in Dharma and with Geshe Michael, but she's a close teacher of Geshe Michael. And my personal experience from Lama Sarakhni is that she's super smart. She has a very bright, clear mind, and she's very funny. She's doing sometimes very smart jokes and leads in a so smart way, leads students to Dharma, to deeper understanding. So today I hope we will get some beautiful teachings from that great experience you have. Welcome, Lama Sarakhni. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. If I were hearing you speak about somebody, I wouldn't know you were talking about me. So thank you so much for those kind words.
Thank you for coming. And today we have translations for 2 languages. Please keep it in mind, Russian and Ukrainian. And if you speak some of these languages, please, you're welcome to join to translation. And maybe we can answer some questions which we can get. So if you have some questions, you can type them in the chat, and maybe we will have some time to answer you. So thank you, Lama Sarakhni, for your time. I know your schedule is pretty busy, but thank you for that. Could you please tell us something about your spiritual career? When did it start? How? And so the first question, this is regarding health project. We are interested in health. There are some sick people, some people who have some issues with health, or have some relatives, children, or family members who are sick. So we are interested in this topic, and today we will be kind of touching this topic sometimes, from time to time. But actually, we are interested in you, Lama Sarakhni, and my goal in this set of meetings, open talks, is to introduce great teachers to Russian-speaking, Ukrainian-speaking community, or English-speaking, of course, but they mostly know you. So could you please tell us about yourself? How did you start it? When you are here in Dharma, when did you do 3-year retreat? When you are so deep in the Dharma, what's the benefits, or kind of that?
A really long question answer sequence. So so for instance, right now, I am sharing the Dharma 15 hours a week. And, you know, that'll be 15 hours a week, and then I'll be off for a couple of weeks or a month, and then in that again. So that's like half-time work plus the hours of review and preparation to do that. And I never set out to be a Dharma teacher. Like, I still don't relate to that title. But circumstances just moved in that way. And now, there's nothing I'd rather do than that. And in retrospect, I see where I actually created this, my future in this life, something I did in this life that I didn't know that would be the result. But like now I can look back and go, oh. So I've been sharing the Asian Classics Institute Foundation courses technically since 2001, not at the 15 hours a week level, but a course here, a course there. And then, the more you do, the more people ask. So it was just, okay, I've been shared it, I can share it. I didn't think I was teaching anybody anything. I was just sharing what had been shared with me. So in that time of like 2000 onward, my husband and I were very involved with what became Diamond Mountain, because we had met Geshe Michael when he came to Tucson in 1998 to give a teaching on the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And we had already been dabbling in the Buddha Dharma in Tucson in the tradition of the Kadampas, because that's what was here in Tucson. And we understood the basic principles. The Kadampa centers came to Tucson because there was someone in Tucson who was a student of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that person was instrumental in having the Dalai Lama come give teachings in Tucson in 1993. So we're going back in time. I became aware that His Holiness would be teaching in Tucson in 1989. That's when I became aware that he would be teaching in 1993. When I heard it, I had never heard of the Dalai Lama before. I really had no idea what it was. But when I heard, the Dalai Lama is coming to teach in Tucson, something in my heart said, I must go. So I did. I bought my ticket in 1990 for something in 1993. And they said, great, but this is not just an open talk. This is a teaching. And so you really need some background. So this person who was a student was the chaplain at the University of Arizona. So he gave classes, Buddhism 101, about karma, about emptiness, about refuge. And thinking back then, I thought I understood it. And when I went to the Dalai Lama's talk, I remember struggling to stay awake during it. Not because it wasn't interesting, but because it was so above my head, that there was a part of me that was up here listening to it, and this part just couldn't get it. But now I heard about His Holiness coming to Tucson because I was at a retreat, just a weekend retreat, that a group that I was involved with, that is a group of theosophists, did a public service event and asked a Tibetan Geshe Gelten to come give us a weekend meditation retreat. And he taught us the practice called Tonglen, the practice of taking and giving. And it's this imaginary practice that you tag to your breathing, in which you pretend that you can take away and destroy the pain and distress that you see in other people. And in doing so, you destroy your misunderstanding of where that pain really comes from. And then you replace it with all the goodness and happiness that you can imagine. And his English was very poor. It was very difficult to understand the teaching. But I found myself like, this is what I've been waiting for. It felt that way. And I started doing Tonglen without any other instruction than just this 3-day weekend with Geshe Gelten. And he was the one who mentioned, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is coming. Okay, right? So you can see how the momentum is building. So now I was studying with this Theosophy study group because a few years prior to that, I had experienced this big loss in my life. My parents were killed in a plane crash into the ocean. So they're gone. Their stuff is gone, right? Whatever they had with them. And my mother had this beautiful gold nugget necklace that she always wore. And they had not been to visit us for several weeks before the accident happened. They lived in 800 miles away. And the day after the accident, my mother's gold nugget was in my bathroom. And I know it was not there before their accident. And that cut my reality in that moment. Because as a scientifically trained person, that was not possible. And being dead, meaning you're gone, also became not possible. I had no explanation for what happened, but I had this personal experience of something beyond material reality within material reality. And I fell into a black hole because I had no one to help me, no one to turn to. So I went to the library. Do you remember libraries? And I found books on death and dying and near death and dying, and just searching. And every book I read, had a list of similar books in the back, and I'd go get those books. Like, I read and read and read, looking for some answer to what happened. I end up finding a book called The Inner Life by Charles Ledbetter, who is a theosophist. And there was one sentence in there that said, what happens at the moment of death happens. And I thought, oh my gosh, my mother, as she's crashing in this airplane, is thinking, I want my daughter to have my gold nugget. And now it's like, Mom, there were more important things to be thinking about as you were dying than that. But thank you very much, because it shook my reality so much that it sent me searching, and I ended up finding, and I ended up meeting my teacher who taught me the meaning of reality in such a way that I could build tools that allow me to create instead of react. And so my husband and I, met Geshe Michael, learned about the ACI courses. They had a practice module called Tonglen. So we ordered it. And they said, we're so sorry, it's not ready yet. So they sent us ACI course 14 called Developing the Good Heart, Lojong, because the Tonglen practice is inside that genre of literature. And so, okay, we'll listen to that whole course in order to find the Tonglen practice, because that's what we were interested in. And the Lojong training, also like, wow, this is what we've been looking for. So we ordered the whole ACI 15 courses. Back then, they were available on audio cassette. Anybody remember audio cassette? And you got a printed binder. So we got 15 printed binders. It came in a box that looked like a coffin. It was so huge. And so we started studying. Meanwhile, Geshe Michael and his group started their 3-year retreat in the hills southeast of Tucson, 2 hours from where we live. And so we said, well, we're close by. You need help, we'll come help. Never actually expecting them to call us. But they did. They called us before they had put up any of their yurts. They called us, they called David. Do you know how to build a yurt? And David said, no, but it can't be too hard. So we started going out on the weekend and help them build the platforms, put up the yurts. Once they were in retreat, we went out, we did dishes, right? We supported the support staff. And the support staff also taught the practice modules and the in-person review courses of ACI during that 3 years that Geshe Michael was in retreat. Because going into retreat, he said, when I finish retreat, my intention is to teach the higher teachings. And if somebody wants those, they need to have completed the ACI 18 courses. They need to be meditating every day, and they need to be keeping their book. So it's like, okay, sign us up. And we just gave up everything else. I mean, we still had our careers. We were working all this time. And, that's how we ended up at what's now Diamond Mountain. And that's how we ended up being the administrators there. And that's how we ended up in 3-year retreat, which happened from 2011 to 2014. But so let's go back further, because the career path I set out was to go into medical care. And it ended up that I became what's called a physician assistant, which was a newish career at the time. We received training, took national exams, got licensed, and then needed to be hired by a physician or institution to practice medicine under supervision. But in that position, we could order and interpret tests, write prescriptions, manage patients. And our responsibility was to manage what we could manage and to know what was above our skill level and refer that to the physician or the specialist. The idea was to bring well-trained help to the physicians. Our training was much faster than an MD training. That was the advantage. And of course, they paid us a lot less. So that was another advantage. So I graduated from my physician assistant degree in 1980. And after a few years of trying different positions, I ended up working with a physician and internist who had a practice that had many, many people with chronic pain. He had bought an older physician's practice. So that older physician's way of managing chronic pain was write the prescription, and the prescription would just have to be stronger and stronger pain medicine as pains got worse and worse, which is what they tend to do when all you do is treat them with pain medicine, because the medicine's just Band-Aids on a deeper problem. So my forward-thinking physician, forward-thinking enough to hire a PA, he also recognized there's got to be a better way to help people manage their pain. And so he set about learning things like homeopathy, acupuncture, manual medicine, other things. And he was so generous because he would say, you know, my name was Susan back then. Susan, take this class with me in homeopathy. Let's study acupuncture. Great, you know. I really didn't believe in those things. But I agreed that, you know, we weren't managing people's illnesses very well with medicine. I was already starting to see. I thought this was the highest way I could help people, was to be able to investigate their ailment, identify it, and give them what would solve it. I believed in that system. I believed it was the highest way I could help people, was to be their PA. I had this experience one day that I was learning what I call recipe acupuncture. You have shoulder pain. These are the points for shoulder pain. And miraculously, most of the time, it worked. I was at a training class one time, and the teacher someone had asked him, should we be using the electronic point finders to find the point? And he said, well, you're welcome to, but you can feel the point, you know, just feel it, and you know where it is. And I thought, right? But of course you can feel them. I learned later by experience. So very early on, one of my close patients that I knew from managing her blood pressure and her stomach aches, etc., she came in one day with shoulder pain. And I said, oh, you know, can I do acupuncture on you? And she goes, fine. This lady's in her 80s. And so I put the first point in, large intestine 4 right here. It runs, the meridian runs up your arm, up across, and it goes to your other side of your nose. I put that needle in. She goes, oh, I just felt that run right up my shoulder to my nose right here. And it's like my eyes must have gotten like this, because she verified that there was truth in these meridians. Before that, I wasn't really believing it, even when it worked, because it didn't work for everybody. And what's up with that? So, meanwhile, right, let me go back a little further. So, in the process of growing into this, I myself was developing chronic pain. I was, you know, I had this pain here all the time, and in my lower back, and down my hips. And I was an athlete. It was like a creaky gait when I first started running, but then it would work itself out and I'd feel really good. And then I'd get in my car to drive to work. And when I went to get out of my car, it was like creaky gait all over again. I felt like I was 90 years old. And things were hurting and I was tired. And at that time, like I was looking for all the different kinds of illnesses that could fit in a 23-year-old. And it's like, it didn't fit anywhere. So I knew not to go down the black hole of what's wrong with me, test me, find out what's wrong. So partly I didn't want to go down that hole because I knew there were no answers. And partly I didn't want to go down that black hole because I didn't want to admit there was something wrong with me. Right? Whether it was physical or emotional or mental, no, I refuse, right, to let this get me down. So I just pushed my way through it. And the more I pushed, the more I hurt. And the more I hurt, the more cranky I got at home. And the harder it was to be this caring, loving PA in practice. And yet I myself didn't see that there was something wrong with this picture. And then my parents died. And my mother's nugget came to me. And all of a sudden, my whole focus of attention was on, what's real. About that same time, I went down to working part-time, which helped some with the pain. And then, so we're going forward in time now. Within a few years of this, I don't understand, circumstances were such that it was clear it was time for me to give up doing Western medicine. And by then I had deeper experience, deeper training in acupuncture. And I decided I will open my own acupuncture clinic office. I still needed my supervising physician to supervise me, but he didn't have to be in the office. He agreed. It was a different one. And I used acupuncture as my therapeutic tool instead of medication. And by then, I also had this superficial awareness of emptiness and karma, and an awareness of the power of intention, and an awareness of realities beyond this one from my theosophy study. And as I would take my chart to see the next patient, I would think to myself, may I be able to know exactly what they need for their highest and best. Whether I can be the one to help them in that way doesn't matter. Let me just know what it is that they need for their highest and best. And I will share that with them. And I'd say that little prayer in my mind. And I'd walk in and I'd do what I did, which people seem to like. It seemed to help. And by the time I got my needle pattern placed, it would reveal a pattern to me. Not because I was special. I just knew the meaning of the different points and how they interrelate. And I would say, okay, this treatment is about making the shift from being a dead old oak tree to a living willow tree. And I'd say something cryptic like that, let them have their treatment, and they'd go away saying, wow, and they'd get better. And so I wouldn't have patients that I saw again and again and again. 3, 4 treatments usually, and see you when something else comes up. So I was loving that and thinking, I will do this for the rest of my life. And then we met Geshe Michael and the ACI teachings and their great retreat, and then the higher teachings. And those higher teachings going to be happening 2 hours away from Tucson. And fast forward about 10 years, and it's like, David, we need to be there. You know, I can't go back and forth like this and manage a practice, right? I couldn't keep my own practice going and be gone 3 days a week, you know, over every weekend. So I said, I gotta close my office and move to Diamond Mountain. And he was working for the University of Arizona. We said, you keep your job, we'll get you an apartment, you can go back and forth. And he goes, okay, I can do that. And then he had an experience. He had a yelling boss experience. And he followed his intuition at that time. Oh, it's time for me to leave too. So he quit. We were 48, 49 years old, and we quit working for pay. And we both flipped out for about 24 hours. And then we decided, no, you know, this is what it's meant to do. And anyway, now I see that my prayer, may I come to know what this other needs for their highest and best, was the seed planting that added to some past life seed planting that put me on this fast track to sharing the Dharma with others. Now, like, I see that it's like sharing the wisdom is the highest thing I can do for anyone. And it doesn't immediately relieve their back pain the way I might have been able to do with acupuncture. But I would treat their back pain, and still a couple of years later, they were back with headaches, right? The acupuncture even didn't get deep enough to stop that cycle of degeneration of our energy systems that are our physical bodies, that are our world. So in retrospect, like, although my life took these turns that I didn't think I wanted, the worst things that happen end up being the best things that happen, and landed me in a place that back when I was 20, 30 years old was not even part of my reality. In fact, I remember a friend saying about a friend of hers that this friend who was an attorney was teaching a Dharma class. And I remember thinking, who the heck is she to teach a Dharma class? You know, thinking it should be only the robe wearing monks that should be able to teach a Dharma class. Wow, was I wrong? So meanwhile, as Diamond Mountain University is starting, on the day that I went to Geshe Michael Lama Christie to ask them to accept me into the Diamond Way teaching, Geshe Michael said, you know, who are you? What do you do? Well, I'm so-and-so. This is my background. I do acupuncture. Acupuncture? Whoa. Would you please teach Chinese medicine in a course at Diamond Mountain? And, you know, I've just asked him, can I join? And he's just asking me, will you teach Chinese medicine? I can't very well say no. So, okay. So for, I think we did 3 semesters of Chinese medicine, and then things got too busy, and he and Lama Christie dropped out, and then everybody else dropped out, of course. So it didn't go on beyond 3 or 4 courses. But again, it's like, here's this powerful karmic object putting me in the position to teach them something, planting seeds in my mind in a way that I didn't even understand then what he saw for me, right, in the future. But even those classes in Chinese medicine, we never got to the point where we could add, and the only reason acupuncture works when it works is because of the karma's ripening of the person receiving it, of the person giving it. We never got into the karma of healing because we needed the background before we could get there. So we didn't get there. And I know I disappointed Geshe Michael in that way, but it's not in the training of Chinese medicine. It's not really even in the training of Tibetan medicine. And it's for sure not in the training of Western medicine. So I'm cooking these ideas, not doing medicine anymore, not doing much acupuncture anymore, but thinking our system is so broken. How can this understanding of what you see yourself do towards others comes back to us, how that can be used in the healthcare arena. So I'm in great retreat. We have months in deep session, and then we'll have a month freer, not doing 4 sessions a day. So you have more time to work on things. And towards the end of it, I don't exactly remember when, I was thinking about these ideas again. Something came up. And just, I don't know, I'm working out stuff about the subtle body and acupuncture meridians and karma and like everything's starting to come together. And this voice goes off in my head. And I just start writing down what it said. And like 48 hours later, there's this manuscript. They came to be called The Puppy, the Pen, and the Chew Toy, The Secret to Healing Anything. And I shared it with some of my retreatants. You know, we had a physician and a nurse and another PA in retreat. So I showed it to them. They all said, you know, nice, great, let's take it deeper. And I put it away. And we never got around to taking it deeper. We came out of retreat. A dear friend from out of retreat, she contacted me. She said, Sarani, I'm compiling a book of personal stories, personal spiritual stories. She knew the one about my mom's nugget. There's like lots more to it. She said, would you write a chapter for my book? Her book was called Spiritual Acupuncture. So I wrote this chapter, and her book came out, and you know, people enjoyed it. It was beautiful. And she introduced me to her book editor. And you know, I'm in this mode of thought. The universe sends messages, clues. It's up to us to recognize them and act on them. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe universe is telling me it's time to do this book, because this editor said, it's so easy to self-publish now. And it's like, well, okay. So I pulled out the manuscript, fine-tuned it, built into it the 6 weeks program at the end of it, and gave it to the editor. And, she goes, wow, this is exactly what I needed to know. And she gets it. And we give it to the book builder, right? The web guy who builds it, who curiously is fluent in Russian. And he's helping me format this book. And he helps me, get it published, self-published, and into Amazon, etc. And then people start saying, can we translate? Can we translate? And one of the translations was into Russian, right? And he was able to actually read it then in both English and Russian and format it for us in Russian. I just think that's such a beautiful connection, right? That my amazing book builder is also a Russian interpreter for the senior Russian speakers in Tucson. Right? He was military background, but now he volunteers his time. So anyway, the book gets finished and I decide, well, now it's time to start seminars. Like coming out of retreat, I had this 4-day workshop I called the 4 Steps for Healing. This is before the book is even out. And I tried it on for size with some people in Sacramento that I knew. I was there. And I tried it on for size for a group of women in my community, Tucson Estates. And I tried it on for size for a group of women in Greater Tucson. And it was well received, but it didn't spark calls. Will you give it again? Will you give it again? And meanwhile, I was getting asked to teach ACI. Would you teach the ACI? Okay. Would you teach an ACI on these days for this time group? Okay. And my focus went to the Dharma, and my 4 steps for healing, is back in the drawer. But not because it isn't useful, not because it doesn't work, but because, right, I've been taken in this different direction. So meanwhile, do I still have time or should I shut up?
It's great. That's wonderful. We have an hour and a half total.
Okay.
And you just continue. But I would like to say that in the chat, there are links for Lama Sarakhni's book. She was talking about puppy, the puppy, the pen, and the toy. So in English and in Russian, if you are interested in it, you can order it in Amazon.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I lost my train of thought.
Okay, then may I ask you some questions?
Okay. Oh, I remember. It was about my own health issues, but maybe your questions are more important.
No, please continue about your own health issues, and then we can talk about some maybe advices you have found during your practice. Right. What can people do? So if I have cancer, if I have some issues which brought me here, and I don't know if some medicine will work, and if doctors said it might work, might not work, what I can do.
Right. To make it work. Right.
To make it work, yeah. Right. Thank you.
Right. So this condition I had, it ends up being called fibromyalgia. There's much more known about it now than then, but there's still like, they don't really understand why, where it comes from. And meanwhile, I also developed migraine syndrome. And they got so bad. And I refused to take medicine for them because I'm just stubborn and stupid. And so I really, really suffered with the migraine. Like the universe was saying, well, if chronic pain doesn't do it to get your attention, we'll hit you with these slamming headaches, you know, that take you out of commission for 24 hours. And I was managing, I was coping, I was suffering, thinking, well, my seeds are going to shift any moment because I've helped so many people, right? With their pain, with their hypertension, with their everything. And so while we were in retreat, one of the other retreatants also got migraine. And she kept writing me notes. Can I buy you the sumatriptan? Right? Because she wanted the seeds for her medicine to work for her headaches, of course. And I was her karmic object. And I kept saying, no, no, no. Finally, she just begged me. And I said, oh, all right. Thinking that I would be the one to get the side effect from that medicine and blah, blah, blah. But I tried it and oh my gosh, you know, relief of the pain in 2 hours instead of 24. And I still need to use sumatriptan. I still get the headache. But now, the minute I feel the syndrome turning on, I take a medicine, it works. So I, knock on wood, I have not spent 24 hours in bed in, I want to say over 10 years. After 20 years of twice a week. So that my point in this is that there is a karmic delay. And it's so darn frustrating because we doubt and we whine and complain and we don't continue to plant our seeds and we forget to do the watering, the rejoicing practice on the seed planting that we've already done. We're in our daily life and we just forget how to manage the system. And then we think, well, it doesn't work because I've helped so many people. How can I still hurt? How can I still have headaches? You know, how can I now have this other problem? Like I've got another one now. But it's this attitude shift. Like, is it a problem or is it an opportunity? Is my chronic pain burning off selfishness since beginningless time? When I really have that in me, it doesn't matter, that chronic pain. In fact, it's even a great, bring it on. Yeah, not right.
That's amazing. I love this idea. That's so great.
We stop struggling against our discomforts when we recognize, no, they're actually a cleaning out, a purifying. As long as we are not in the same time planting new seeds similar to the ones that we're trying to burn off. So how do we know? Like, what kind of seed makes chronic pain and stiffness? And so I had to stop and think, like, well, you know, I just feel like I've been overworked, physically overworked all the time. And in my this life, I never overworked anybody. I was never in a position to be the one to make anybody overwork. So it's like, it really, on that level, it can't be from this life. So I decided one day, right, I'm going to think about past life. Like, I don't have past life recall very much, like 3. And those also don't fit for what I need. So one day I thought, okay, I must have had a life where I was the, what do you call it? And when you have a group of labor workers, you're the master in charge of the labor workers. And I made up this lifetime in which I was the master of the labor workers. And I was just cruel and mean. And, you know, I made them work beyond their capacity. And they all felt like I feel all the time. I just made it up. And then I thought, whoa, that was terrible. Like, I will never do that again. And I can see how those seeds are ripening now as my chronic pain and the crankiness that comes from it. And, you know, maybe that mean me was in pain too. And, you know, didn't know that's why they were being so mean. And I really, 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 really regret it. And I'll be really careful not to overwork others in this life. And I'll try hard to take on the hard work of others when I can. And I'll rejoice in the ways that I have lessened the physical burden on others when I have. And I dedicate all those seeds to finishing off this cycle of needing to have this chronic pain to burn off these old seeds. Now, you know, is it true? Is it exact? It doesn't really matter. And one day I got a chance to ask Geshe Michael. I said, I did this thing. It was about a different issue once. And I said, it seemed to help. It seemed to shift. And all he said was, you didn't make it up. You didn't make that life up. And it's like, yes, I did. But he was saying, no, in the making it up, right, you are actually having a kind of recall, not a direct one. But I heard what he said as confirmation of this method of, you know, finding what we think are the specific seeds for what I'm experiencing now that seems to have no this life answer. We don't know why your muscles hurt all the time, Western medicine says. Must be psychosomatic, you know? And then even spiritual work, we don't know why you hurt all the time. It must be energetic blockage. Okay, right? Karmically, I don't know what I did, but it has to be imprints planted because I'm experiencing, what I'm experiencing is results. I can't experience anything that's not a result of some cause in which I saw myself think, do, say something similar to somebody else, because that's what it is to make an experience. So when we can get to that level of effort, we have like a method to work with our karmic seeds in such a way that when we have an issue, the question becomes less, do I take the medicine or don't I take the medicine? It's, well, my goodness is ripening that I have something that might work, the medicine. How do I manage my seeds to increase the likelihood that this medicine will work? It's not how do I make the seeds to make this medicine work, because the medicine's not going to work either way. How do I increase the seeds for this exercise of taking that medicine to grow the result of my disease responding or my situation changing? Okay. If we're thinking of the seeds can make something be in the medicine so it will really work, we're thinking wrongly and it won't work. Right? It's getting very subtle, but it's an important piece of the picture. So how do we do that? How do we make a medicine work? How do we make a treatment work? How do we make a no treatment work? Right? Because if we decide, no, I don't want to take the medicine, we need our seeds for not taking the medicine to help us get better, don't we? It's tricky. So then the closer we match, the more specifically we understand the seeds that were planted that are bringing about this result, the better we can see what the opposite seed would be. I'm not sure that came across. Let me see if I can use an example. When I'm in a deep retreat, I'll use some of my sessions to think about, some specific person in my life that I know has a particular illness. And I'll do a whole session, like digging into deeper issues about why they have their condition. So there's one that I'm remembering. There was a young woman at Diamond Mountain, such a capable, amazing, hardworking young gal who I learned had had a history of some kind of lymphoma a few years before, and she was in remission while she was at Diamond Mountain. She came for 3 or 4 years studying the open teaching. And then she missed a term and came back a term. And I learned that her disease had returned. And then she went away because she, needed to, I guess, go into treatment again. And we went into retreat, and I never really heard what happened to her. So she was on my mind as I was starting into retreat. And I got to thinking about her, and I got to thinking about her kind of cancer. And this story comes to my mind. And it was about how, cancer cells get arrogant and they don't play by the rules, and they multiply themselves. They take the host and use the host for their own gain. And they keep doing so until there's no more host to use for their own gain. And then son of a gun, they die too. So the very thing about cancer cells going awry is that it's like a mutiny, right? Some cells of her, I was thinking this in regards to this one young woman. And, these cells were doing this mutiny thing from her body. And, maybe that's a result of having been part of a mutiny before. Like, who would put that together? And then my mind starts telling the story about her past life when she was involved in some kind of mutiny. And, it sounds absurd as I'm hearing myself say it now. But as the story evolved and my imaginary her like understood, my imaginary her was able to rethink, right, her response to her disease, recognizing, oh, my poor body is in this fight between, right, the normal way, the current way, and these ones that want to take over. And what I need to do is intervene, right, and settle this dispute. So of course, in my story, because like it's coming to me, but there is a component of me tracking it and adding to it. Like, it's hard to explain. She was able to see how there had been this kind of mutinous conflict between herself, right, and someone in her life, that she was struggling as the one trying to be the one who carrying out the mutiny. And she goes, oh, what a big mistake. I'm so sorry. I will do this as my antidote and this as my power of restraint. And of course, in my story, her cancer goes away. Right? Now, I don't come out of retreat for 3 more years. I don't even remember this young woman's name. So I haven't had any kind of confirmation as to whether my story affected her or not. So I choose now to say she's living happily somewhere, you know, happy adult woman, cancer free. I choose to believe that. Is it true? I don't know. So why not plant those seeds that changing my seeds to see her having cancer seeds is what changes it in my world. Now, there are other similar things, and I have gone on to know those people and had them, not all of them, had them say, you know, I was having this problem, and all of a sudden they gave me this medicine, and now it's all gone. And it's like, yay. I don't ever tell them, you know, I did this thing in my retreat on your behalf, because it's not part of their reality. It's my reality. So there, now I'll shut up and I'll take questions, because maybe that'll start us in the right track, huh?
This is a wonderful, and you talked about very deep and subtle ideas regarding this, how to treat. Actually, I'm listening to you and thinking about what you said. There is a difference between how you observe the situation and if you're taking the result, and what Geshe-la said, you did not commit this bad stuff. So could you, I didn't got everything you said about this story. Maybe I would ask you to go a bit deeper there and how to treat the situation. What is you said there is a subtle difference. Could you please, maybe I'm not alone who didn't get the subtleness of that. Could you make another example or something to make us understand this subtleness?
Yeah, let me see. So
And if you guys have any questions, please type them in a chat.
So suppose we have chronic back pain, low back pain. And, you know, Western medicine would say, exercise in this way, so your muscles can get better balance, strengthen your core, you know. And on one level of understanding karma and emptiness, we would say, okay, for me doing those exercises to actually work for me, I need to find somebody else who has chronic pain. And I would want to go take them to the pool once a week to help them feel better for an hour. So, and I dedicate that to my exercises, helping my back get better. That's one way of using the 4 steps for healing. That would mean to keep your back pain managed. Of course, you have to keep taking somebody to the pool every week, and we have to keep doing the exercises. And on one level, it's like, well, that's the result we expect. But it isn't really addressing why our body's manifesting back pain in the first place. It's a karmic management of the how, right? We make the distinction between the how something happens and the why something happens. You can karmic manage the how, but it doesn't necessarily address the why. And then we say, well, the why my back pain is bad is because, when I was 20, I played football and I just, abused my body playing football. So it's no wonder I have degenerative disease and it makes the muscles work harder. And so it hurts all the time. And so I don't expect anything different. But then underneath the chronic back pain, there's also some way in which being someone with chronic back pain makes you feel. Maybe I feel less useful in the world. Maybe I feel betrayed by my body. Maybe I feel, I don't know, disrespected by life. You find how does your chronic situation make you feel? Not I feel pain, not that kind of feel. Emotional feel. To address what's causing, to address the karmic seeds of that feeling is very different. So here's me with back pain taking my friend to the pool so my exercises will work. Here's me feeling that having the chronic back pain now makes me somehow less capable than I used to be, and I'm upset by that. Doing my daily exercises does not address the feeling of being less capable. Could I find someone that I also see as feeling less capable in my world, and go to them and ask them for some kind of help that they're capable of doing? Maybe my less capable friend, right? They really are less capable. They're 95 years old, right? They're in a wheelchair. They're really feeling incapable. But they knit. Could I help them by asking them, if I bring you a skein of white yarn, would you make me a head warmer? Please, I'm happy to pay you. But my ulterior motive is to help them feel in some way capable and useful. To plant the seeds in my own mind for seeing myself as still capable and useful. In the same way as I was when I was 30, no. when I'm not feeling incapable or incompetent, my premise is your back pain will go away.
Wonderful. Great.
Like that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And let me please just make a, please confirm if I understood you right. So we are going behind the physical issue and trying to understand the result which we experience, not in pain, but our mental stuff, what it gives us, emotion, which emotion it gives us. And then we go to help somebody with this emotion. Right?
Right.
This is what I'm just trying to share with everybody who is listening. It's wonderful. So we have something in the chat, and thank you for sharing it. It's amazing. And actually, we're trying to do this with our advertisement, with our karmic healing project. And if you are interested in healing, you can join our karmic healing project, because we take people and going deeper behind the physical problem issue and trying to find the emotion behind that and the result they get. So if you're interested, you can join, and I'm asking Valerie to share the links, please. And the question in the chat. So I'm not sure, Daria, if it's a question, but I will translate. Thank you, my back hurts, and I go to the hospital for treatment. Probably everything, but still not self-love. I don't feel the core. I feel fear. I'm afraid I can't do it, and I'm not that capable. Straight to the point. So,
Right.
any comments?
There is a good example, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean stop going for treatment. It would mean add to your treatments. You know, this different actually series of things to add. And in Puppy Pen Chew Toy, it explains the different levels of life protecting things that we can do that will contribute to whatever treatment that we're getting, helping it work better. And in that, I remember the list is like, when you're driving your car, stop behind the limit line at the stop sign. Right? It's a life protecting thing that most of us don't do, right? We slide through it, check both ways and go. But to really stop behind the limit line, because you want your treatment for your back pain to work better. Right? We can do that.
I love it.
Those kinds of things. Then the fear, I'm so afraid this will go on forever. Right? That, where is it that we're causing fear in our world? I don't cause anybody fear, except the little birds that fly away when I walk by. There's a bunch of birds. I'm gonna walk around them. There's an anthill going. I'm gonna be really careful to step over them so they don't even know I'm there. I'm gonna be really careful to avoid causing fear in anybody. We can take that further. What's the opposite of fear? That's a long story, right? Unique to each person. Confidence, maybe. Where have I helped someone feel more confident? Where have I helped someone feel safe? If we have children, I don't, but if we do, we have so many of the seeds that we need for our healing. If we can rejoice in them and add to them. Remember the times, right? The little one came to you, they're upset and afraid, and hug and kiss, and they're okay. Right? Those are seeds for relieving someone's fear. Those are seeds for building someone's confidence. Bringing them to mind when we're going into a situation that would be fearful, and rejoicing in them, and having this sense of willingness to go into the thing that would bring fear. In my experience, that you never meet the fear you were expecting. Right? Our resistance, no, it's not gonna work. It's gonna be painful. I don't want to do it. We meet all of that when we get there. When we think beforehand, it's gonna be unpleasant. Nobody's gonna care how uncomfortable I am. Wait a minute. I know I have the seeds from blah, 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 right? And I showed that I cared, and I attended, and I loved them, and they felt better afterwards. And because I have those seeds, I'm willing to step into this place, right? That's going to be uncomfortable. And I wager the experience will be different.
Great. This is a deep, deep teaching. Thank you so much for sharing this. I have another question. I work with children and the parents in the hospital. I am thinking about how I can help them better. What to do with yourself to better inform their parents? What seeds should I plant to help them grow? So to help them more, probably. And so this is question about how can I share the seed system with these parents.
Right. So like I've got two ways to go on that answer, right? So I want to go this way first. Like I'm hearing you're in the position to be the one that's like managing the interchange between the parents and the child, and then them and their health management people. So when we understand about seeds, we don't really need to sit the parents and child down and say, let me tell you about seeds, right? Because they're not in the frame of mind to learn it at that time. But what we do is that as we are guiding them in, oh gosh, let me see. So for instance, we know that in order for the child to get better, it would help for the child to see themselves helping someone else in some way. And we know that for the parent to be able to cope better with the scary situation that they're in, that they could either help another parent who's in a similar situation, or they could facilitate their child to help another child feel better. And so probably what would relate would be to say, you know, your little one, it's well enough that they could get out of bed and go to the playroom. You know, let's help them go to the playroom. And when they're at the playroom, let's see if there's someone who is also there in the playroom who's a sick child, and let's provide your child with something that they can share with the other sick child that will help the other sick child feel, a little happier in the moment. So it's one thing to say, let's take your sick child to the playroom and let them play. It's different than saying, let's take your sick child to another sick child and let them interact together so that they see each other helping each other. Right? The parents, if they go, why? That sounds stupid. Then you can say, we reap what we sow, right? Something very simple. Let's just try it. Right? Let's see. Now, that isn't always the circumstance that can help it. Help. Maybe child can't get out of bed and go to the playroom. You can facilitate parents' interaction with the child to be like, remember when we were on the playground and you helped that little Johnny? He was so afraid of going down the slide and you helped him go down the slide and how much fun he had. Do you remember that? Yeah, I remember, but I'll never get to do it again. Ignore the I'll never get to do it again. Think of another one. Remember that time we went roller skating and you helped that little kid when they fell? Yeah. Remember that time you picked up the little bird that fell out of its nest and we helped it get better? Yeah, right? Help the little one remember and think about ways they've helped others. We can't find them, right? Your little one helped you someday in some way, right? They opened your heart. They gave you a hug. Guiding the parent to interact with the child in such a way that looks at the goodness already done by both of them would be the skillful way that you, as the one in between, could help them have a better response in their hospital. But then there's this other train of thought, which is you yourself. If you're in that situation, like that's your job. And when you go home at night and you're venting, it's like nothing I do really helps. Nothing I do really works. The parents just stay upset. The poor child is just, in such pain. I do my job well. But when I get home at night, it's just like nobody listens to me. Nobody thinks what I say is valuable. I don't know, your personal struggle. What's not working? And how does it make you feel? I feel not listened to, not valuable. So what do you have to do? Where in my interaction with others am I disrespecting others? Am I not believing others? Find it, do the opposite. Where have I in the past lied about stuff? Because the result of lying is to be not believed, to not heard. Oh, I remember, when I was a kid. But as an adult, I don't do that. I regret. I'll keep not doing that. Oh, as an adult, I exaggerate all the time. Oh, connect the dot. I'm going to be more careful with my speech and its impact. So that when I say to a parent, let's take Johnny to the playroom and play with other kids, they won't say, that's a stupid idea. He'll just get sicker. Right? Our seeds can ripen as no, or our seeds can ripen as great idea. Which would you prefer? it's not the argument you make in the time. It's the seed planting that we do in every other moment than that particular moment that will bring about the shift. Today, tomorrow, yeah, could. When we get the seeds really right, the shift happens very swiftly. When we're dancing around the issue, a little bit shifts, but not all of it. And so we don't really notice because it's not the result we wanted. So you work at the level of the seeds that you can find. And then if it hasn't shifted enough, you dig a little deeper. And you keep digging until the shift that you make shifts the issue. And then my experience, both with myself and with others, is like once that shift happens, you don't even remember really that it was a conflict. It's just so shifted, it's just gone. And that habit of old behavior is gone, and you have this new habit, and you're just different than you were before. When we get the seeds really right.
Thank you, dear Lama Sarakhni, for sharing your wisdom. Such a great advices you gave to us. And we are gonna finish it up because we are kind of a bit out of time. And I'm lucky to know you. I'm lucky to have you here in this talk. Thank you so much for doing it. And thank you for your teachings. It's such a great wisdom. It's very helpful for me personally. And yeah, there is in the chat, it's going to be a retreat, Medicine Buddha and Darya Nagarjuna retreat with Geshe Michael Roach, my teacher. And in the chat, there is a link and you can join if you're interested in it.
Right.
There's a lot of wisdom and very, very deep wisdom, which can help you with your health and the cause of your health issues. Maybe
meaning they're not health issues, they are.
Maybe you would like to say a few words about this retreat to describe for people if
The Medicine Buddha?
Yeah, Medicine Buddha and Darya Nagarjuna retreat, 10 days from October 11th till October 20th. Maybe you would say something.
So in that retreat, Professor Michael will teach a class, and other senior teachers will teach related topics. If you purchase the one that allows you to have that, but you can go by donation and have access to Geshe Michael's and various rituals that they put on all online, of course. So Medicine Buddha practice is a practice about invoking the powers of healing by way of calling upon this being who's called Medicine Buddha and his 7 brothers who dedicated themselves to helping people heal when they were asked. And it sounds very superstitious or self-existent. And so the reason we get teachings on it is that it doesn't work to just say some prayers and repeat some mantras if we don't also have the karmic seeds of protecting life, taking care of others. And so Geshe Michael doesn't so much teach how to do the practice. He teaches how to make it work. And to do that, he uses a text by a a master teacher and practitioner from 200 AD in India, whose name is Arya Nagarjuna, whose specialty is the marriage of emptiness and love. And so Geshe Michael will weave those two texts together to explain the emptiness of the illness in ourselves or other that we're using the medicine Buddha mantra to try to heal, so that we can better understand how it is that mantra can bring about healing, but not just by using mantra, right? It's a riddle. It's like a riddle. And so it's a beautiful series of 2-hour classes with Geshe Michael that take us deeper.
Thank you for this description. It makes people, I guess, understand it's deeper. We are having these retreats once a year for, I don't know, 3 years. This is a great teaching, and it's going deeper and deeper and deeper every year. Thank you so much, dear Lama Sarakhni.
And my honor. Very, very happy to have shared with you. Good luck to everyone. May your healing happen today. Yay. Yay. Truly, I'm not just teasing.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
In this goal, and thank you for coming. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank
I hope to meet you in person someday.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.